Hi, my name is Angelina Rodriguez, and I'm reading the Bible out loud to you in a way that's easier to understand. We are in the book of Exodus, and this is chapter 5. Afterward, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says: Let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness." In the wilderness, Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." Then he said, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, or he may strike us with plagues or with the sword." But the king of Egypt said, "Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to your work." Then Pharaoh said, Look, the people of the land are numerous, and you are stopping them from work." The same day, Pharaoh gave his orders to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people. "You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That is why they are crying out. Let us go and sacrifice to our God. Make the work harder for the people so that they can keep working and pay no attention to the lies." We're just joining in or haven't read the book of Exodus before, we are talking about Moses, and we're telling the story about when Moses met up with God, and he was given specific orders to go see the Pharaoh and tell him to let his people go because he's tired of them being slaved and tired of them being mistreated. So he was given several miracles that he could perform to prove that he was sent from God. And now we're in the middle of him actually talking to the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh's not listening to him. He's warned him once verbally and said, "Who are you and what Lord are you talking about? This is not the God that we worship," because they worshiping false gods and sacrificing to them and truly believe that, their God is the right God. And Moses is like, "No, you're wrong. You need to listen to me. There is one God, and this God is God Almighty, and he has told me that he hears his people crying out for help, and he's tired of it. Let his people go, or else." So the Pharaoh just got done telling him, he said, "Go away. I'm not listening to you." And so then Pharaoh went to the slave drivers and he said, "Listen, these people are crying because they're lazy. I want you to work them 10 times as hard. Tell them they need to build way more houses than normal, but also don't supply them with the supplies they need to build the houses. I want you to make them go get it themselves. Otherwise, they won't have food and they won't have shelter." Then the slave drivers and the overseers went out and said to the people, "This is what Pharaoh says: I will not give you any more straw. Go and get your own straw wherever you can find it, but your work will not be reduced at all." So the people scattered all over Egypt to gather stubble to use for straw. The slave drivers kept pressing them, saying, "Complete the work required of you for each day, just as when you had straw." And Pharaoh's slave drivers beat the Israelite overseers they had appointed, demanding, "Why haven't you met your quota or bricks yesterday or today as before?" So the slave drivers themselves, if they don't make their slaves meet the quota, they're beat in front of the slaves. And so it's like um, a chain of commands and a chain of abuse. If they already fear their slave drivers, and then the slave drivers are being beaten by messengers who are sent by the Pharaoh, they are essentially being beaten by the Pharaoh, if that makes sense. Then the Israelite overseers went and appealed to Pharaoh. "Why have you treated your servants this way? Your servants are given no straw, yet we are told, make brick." Your servants are being beaten by the fault, but the fault is with your own people. Pharaoh said, Lazy, that's what you are, lazy. That is why you keep saying, Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord. Now get to work. You will not be given any straw, yet you must produce your full quota of bricks. The Israelite overseers realized they were in trouble when they were told, You are not to reduce the number of bricks required for each day. When they left Pharaoh, they found Moses and Aaron waiting to meet them, and they said, May the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials, and have put a sword in their hand to kill us. Then the Israelite overseers went and appealed to Pharaoh. Why have you treated your servants this way? Your servants are given no straw, yet we are told, make brick. Your servants are being beaten by the fault, but the fault is with your own people. Pharaoh said, Lazy, that's what you are, lazy. That is why you keep saying, Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord. Now get to work. You will not be given any straw, yet you must produce your full quota of bricks. The Israelite overseers realized they were in trouble when they were told, You are not to reduce the number of bricks required for each day. When they left Pharaoh, they found Moses and Aaron waiting to meet them, and they said, May the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials, and have put a sword in their hand to kill us. Moses returned to the Lord and said, Why, Lord, why have you brought trouble on these people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not rescued your people at all. So I want to take a moment to go ahead and speak on what I just read in Exodus 5. There is a lot of slavery going on, and if you want a place to live and food to eat, they make it at such a high price that nobody can afford it on their own. So the way the economy is set up back then is you have to find somebody that has more money than you, join in on whatever it is that they're doing, whether it be architecture or livestock, and you have to provide a skill or learn that skill. A lot of people were shepherds, and a lot of people were masons. And so when people dig up the ancient civilizations, they are like, oh, we don't see slavery. I mean, every person had their own home, every person had their own apartments, whole families lived here, and they all ate the same foods. Well, that's because the economy was set up in such a way that they all lived in close, tight quarters in small communities, small neighborhoods, and each person did the same trade. So if you built buildings, you lived in a community like this one where you had everything you needed and it was supplied to you. It was like a chain of economics. You had your butcher and your baker and your candlestick maker, okay, literally, quite literally. And those people lived within these communities because it was whole households. But one person in each household had to be working towards building the pyramids or whatever quarters that they were building at the time. They had to make brick. They had to provide for their families. So the money trickled down into their families, and they also did small trades within the community. So the women would go out and make bread and then sell the bread at a market. It's much like what we have here today in America and what everybody has every day. And in other civilizations, it's not any different. We just use different words to describe what it is that we're doing. But society as a whole has slowly progressed to the same thing that it used to be from the days of Noah to the day of today. And I think that is, I know that that's a huge basis of the story that we're getting into, and we're going to learn a lot about what we call the economy and the government as we continue to read the book of Exodus. I thank you for joining me, and if you want to do is pick up a Bible and read, or you can find me at Jesus is a DJ, all one word, on YouTube. And if you like it, don't forget to push the like button and subscribe.